This is the story of Kelly, a young girl with a tiny racket, a big dream, and a heart full of hope. Her story begins not under the bright lights of a grand stadium, but in the quiet glow of dawn, in a small town where the birdsong was the only applause she knew. While most kids were still tucked in their beds, dreaming of cartoons and playgrounds, Kelly was lacing up her worn-out sneakers, her mind already on the court. With an old, slightly warped racket clutched in her hand, she'd race out the door, her ponytail bouncing with each determined step. Her destination was the old, cracked tennis court at the edge of town, a place forgotten by most. But for Kelly, it was the most important place in the world. It was her training ground, her sanctuary, her field of dreams. Every single morning, before the school bell even thought about ringing, Kelly was there. The sun would just be stretching its golden arms over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and Kelly would already be practicing. She had a singular, magnificent dream that fueled her every move. One day, she wanted to play on the hallowed green grass of Wimbledon, the most famous, most prestigious tennis tournament in the entire world. She had posters of tennis legends on her bedroom wall, their triumphant poses a constant reminder of what was possible. She imagined the roar of the crowd, the crisp white outfits, and the thrill of hitting a perfect shot on that legendary court. This wasn't just a fleeting wish, it was a fire in her heart. At first, Kelly's practice sessions were a comedy of errors. She'd toss the ball up to serve, and it would fly off her racket in a completely random direction, sometimes landing in the bushes nearby. She'd swing with all her might, but the ball would either sail way too high over the net or dive straight into it with a sad little thud. More often than not, it wouldn't even cross the net at all. For every one ball she managed to hit over, 10 would go astray. It was frustrating. Some days she felt like her arms were made of jelly, and her racket had a mind of its own. But even when her cheeks were red with effort, and her brow was furrowed in concentration, a smile was never far from her face. She'd miss a shot, take a deep breath, and try again, and again, and again. She knew that every miss was just a stepping stone, a lesson in disguise. Her coach, a kind old man named Mr. Harrison, who saw the spark in her eyes, would often lean against the fence, watching her. He never focused on her mistakes. Instead, he'd say, "Kelly, champions aren't born with a special talent that nobody else has. They're made. They're forged in the fires of patience and endless practice. Every single pro you admire was once a beginner, just like you." Kelly took his words to heart. She believed him. She understood that success wasn't magic. It was the result of showing up every day, especially on the days you didn't feel like it. So she trained with a renewed sense of purpose. Her life became a montage of dedication. You could see her, sweat dripping down her face as she ran drills back and forth, her legs burning but her spirit soaring. She'd spend hours just practicing her serve, tossing the ball up, over and over, until the motion was as natural as breathing. After school, she wasn't playing video games. She was glued to the television, watching the pros, studying their every move. She'd watch how they positioned their feet, the elegant arc of their backhand, the explosive power of their forehand. Then, she'd race back to the court and try to copy them, mimicking their footwork and their swings, trying to absorb their greatness through sheer imitation and hard work. Her little notebook was filled with scribbles and diagrams of serves, volleys, and strategies she'd observed. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months dissolved into years. The little girl with the tiny racket was growing up. The sun and the constant practice tanned her skin and added a new layer of strength to her frame. Her arms, once thin and wiry, were now lean and powerful. Her serves, once clumsy and unpredictable, now zipped across the net with speed and precision. But more importantly, her heart grew braver. She learned to face challenges head on, to quiet the voice of doubt in her mind, and to trust in her own ability. She started playing in small local tournaments. The first few were tough. She lost, and she lost a lot. The sting of defeat was sharp, and there were times she went home with tears in her eyes. But she never let a loss define her. After shaking her opponent's hand with genuine sportsmanship, She would go home, get out her notebook, and analyze what went wrong. A loss wasn't an ending. It was a lesson. It showed her what she needed to work on. So, after a loss, she didn't mope. She trained even harder, with more focus and more fire, turning her disappointment into fuel. And slowly, steadily, the results began to change. She started winning. First, a small local trophy, then a regional one. Each victory, big or small, was a testament to her unwavering dedication. Then, one crisp autumn morning, a morning that started just like any other, everything changed. She was finishing up her practice when Coach Harrison walked onto the court, not with his usual coaching instructions, but with a wide, proud smile that reached his eyes. He held a thick envelope in his hand. "Kelly," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "it's time. All the hard work, all the early mornings, all the sweat and tears, it was all for this." He handed her the envelope. "You're going to Wimbledon." Kelly's hands trembled as she took the letter. Her eyes scanned the official crest, the formal script. Her name, Wimbledon. The words seemed to jump off the page. A wave of disbelief washed over her, followed by a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated joy. She covered her mouth with her hand, a gasp escaping her lips. The world around her seemed to fade away. It was real. The dream she had nurtured on this cracked, humble court was actually coming true. Tears of joy, gratitude, and relief streamed down her face as she hugged her coach. The crumpled letter held tight against her heart. All those mornings, all that effort, it had all been worth it. When the day finally came and Kelly stepped onto the legendary grass court of Wimbledon, it was more magical than she had ever imagined. The grass was an impossible, vibrant green, so perfect it looked like a carpet woven from emeralds. The stands were a sea of people, a murmur of excitement rippling through the massive crowd. The flash of cameras sparkled like diamonds in the sun. It was overwhelming, breathtaking, and absolutely everything she had dreamed of. Taking a deep, steadying breath, Kelly looked around, absorbing the moment. This was it. She wasn't watching it on TV anymore. She was here. As she walked to her side of the court, she closed her eyes for a second and whispered to herself, "This is for every sunrise, for every missed shot, for every time I fell and got back up again." A calm settled over her. She wasn't nervous. She was ready. She played with a smile on her face, not because it was easy, but because she was living her dream. She chased every ball, swung with freedom and power, and celebrated every point, win or lose. The score didn't matter as much as the journey that had brought her here. She was a champion in her own right, simply by standing on that court. Kelly's Wimbledon dream had come true, not because she was lucky, and not because it was handed to her. It came true because she built it, piece by piece, with hard work, resilience, and an unshakable belief in herself. She proved that the biggest dreams aren't just for a chosen few. They are for those who are willing to work for them. So, remember Kelly's story. No dream is ever too big, and no beginning is ever too small. As long as your heart is full of effort and your spirit is full of hope, go after your own Wimbledon, whatever it may be. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more motivational stories. We'll see you in the next video.